So when water moves up from the roots to the xylem vessels to the leaves, what happens at the leaves is that we have got a thin layer of moisture. Okay, so this thin layer of moisture is found in between the intercellular air spaces. So if you recall your previous chapter on nutrition in plants, there are these air spaces between the spongy mesophyll cells. So these air spaces, what it does is that it enables gaseous exchange to be more rapid. So this is also similar in the lungs itself, whereby we have got air spaces to enable a smoother gaseous exchange. Okay, so when the concentration of the water vapor in the cells is much higher than the surroundings, what happens is that water will leave the leaves via transpiration into the surroundings, which is why if the outer atmosphere is extremely humid, which means I have got high water concentration in the surroundings, my concentration gradient of the leaves to the outside will be lower, and therefore the rate of transpiration will also be lower. In other words, the rate of transpiration pool will also be slower. Understand? Okay, so it is all impacted depending on the surroundings itself. That's how the plant control the amount of water that it is able to uptake. Okay, so why is transpiration important? Okay, so transpiration, as the water moves up, it is important to maintain turgor pressure. So which means the leaves are able to remain as much spread out as possible for photosynthesis. The stem is remaining upright in order to support the leaves. Okay, so when I have got water evaporation as well, that will enable continuous uptake of minerals via active transport. Okay. Another part is also for cooling, okay, similar to the perspiration that occurs in humans. So as the water evaporates from the leaves, it will absorb whatever heat, additional heat that the plant has from the surroundings, or through chemical processes such as photosynthesis and respiration, to cool the leaves or the plant down. Okay, now wilting is when there is insufficient water. So when I have got excessive rate of transpiration, much more than the rate of absorption, or if there is insufficient water at the roots, wilting will take place. Okay, so when the plant wilts, the stems start to droop. That is due to the drop in turgor pressure. Okay, so when I have excessive amounts of transpiration and the vacuoles will start to shrink, the cells will also start to become flaccid. Okay, so of course wilting is not all bad. There will be disadvantages and advantages of wilting itself. So at the initial measure, wilting provides a short temporary measure which will reduce the surface area that is being exposed for transpiration. Okay, so that will help the plant to conserve water. But of course, at the same time, if wilting continues for a long period of time, the amount of carbon dioxide that is able to enter will be reduced as well, simply because the leaves start to fold up, so the stoma pore will start to become shut. Okay, so carbon dioxide will now become a limiting factor of photosynthesis. So when we do not have sufficient carbon dioxide for the plant, that will result in lack of chemical energy that is gotten from the sun itself. Okay. So how do we control the rate of transpiration? We have got a few. Okay, so the control mechanism falls by the stomata. Okay, the leaf fall. So meaning to say the type of trees that depend on the type of season it have, and also the leaf shape and cuticle. Okay, so the stoma pore is not opened at night because photosynthesis is not in progress due to the lack of your sunlight. So therefore, we have got lesser water vapor loss as the stoma closes at night. Okay, so in cold or winter countries, what happens is that leaves start to fall. Okay, so when the leaves shed, that will also reduce the rate of transpiration. In addition, during cold periods of time, the temperature is very low, so the amount of heat that is being lost to the surroundings is also greatly reduced. So last but not least, the leaf shape and the cuticle will highly depend on location of the plant. So in the desert, which is extremely hot, cactuses, cacti, they have very small pine needle-like structures as leaves. So you have got reduced surface area. Therefore, I have got reduced amount of transpiration. Okay, so some plants, they also have sunken stomata. So the sunken stomata helps to provide or reduce the amount of water loss to the environment. So instead of the stomata out at the bottom, what happens is that the stomata is being found at the inner part of it. Okay, so when it is found at the inner part of it, it is not very exposed to the surroundings here. That is one thing. Another thing is also because it is found inside, you can see that the small volume here will help to increase the humidity area. Okay, because there is some water vapor trapped here. So when it increases the humidity area, the concentration of water in the leaves, the intercellular air spaces, compared to the surroundings is increased. So therefore there will be lower water loss through transpiration. Okay, so of course some water will still leave through the epidermis. Not all can be prevented from leaving, and that is known as cuticle transpiration.